Okay, so we continue with our study of the Chovos Halevavos. We are up to, in Shaar Habitachon, the fifth chelek, the fifth area of life where a person has to have bitachon. So we discussed, last one was when it comes to mitzvahs, those mitzvahs that a person does himself, that a person does not need anyone else to be involved in the mitzvah. So we discussed that the proper method of bitachon there, application of bitachon, is to have bitachon when it comes to the last step, which is the practical, whether the mitzvah can actually be fulfilled. But there's no room for bitachon when it comes to the thought of wanting to do the mitzvah, as well as the commitment to go and do it, that the person must himself come up with and not rely on Hashem, but that Hashem is mechazik him, Hashem strengthens him, and Hashem encourages him, that he can daven for. And we pointed out that we have an obligation, as someone texted me that it's not always on the forefront of our minds, that I have to daven, I have to ask requests from Hashem, I have to ask Hashem for things that it's pashut to me that I know that Hashem knows that I'm totally on him. Even the simple things that it's not a chiddush that I need Hashem for, of course, but still the basic necessity of life, a person should always be davening to Hashem and making sure, requesting that he has those things and not take anything for granted. So on page 343, the Chovos Halevavos says as follows: Aval pirush hachelek hachamishi, the fifth part of bitachon v'hu chovos ha'evarim asher ta'altam v'niskom misavrim el zulasei. So it's my engagement in mitzvahs, those mitzvahs that benefit or harm affect someone else. So if I fulfill the mitzvah, I affect someone positively in a positive way. And if I don't fulfill the mitzvah, I do it in the wrong way, someone else is affected negatively. Tzedakah, like the mitzvah of tzedakah, meiser, taking meiser off produce that grows in Eretz Yisrael, limud chachma, teaching wisdom to people, v'tzavos v'toiv, urging those to do good and warning them to avoid evil, l'hashiva amanos, returning owed money and goods, l'hastir hasor, keeping a secret. It's a mitzvah to keep a secret. Someone tells you something in confidence, you have to keep it confident. The Chovos Chaim brings us in Hilchos Lashon Hara. L'daber toiv, speaking well of others. L'asas hatoiv, do kind acts, like kibur avos, honoring parents. The hikona harishoim el alokim, humbling the wicked before Hashem. There's a mitzvah to humble those who are wicked before Hashem. You have to know how to do it, when to do it. V'hoiros b'nei adam darchei tevasim, teaching people the right way to succeed in their lives, giving people advice. It's a mitzvah. A yid needs help, you help him, it's a mitzvah. I once saw a tshuva from, I forget who, it might have been Rav Yosef, and he paskins that if you're driving down the road, and you see a yid stuck on the side of the road, and you're not in a rush to go anywhere, you're coming home, and you can come home a half hour later, you have an absolute obligation to stop and help the yid. Now, if it's a shayla of losing money, or you need it at home this year, you're going somewhere, then you have to calculate, the different mitzvahs, which one takes precedence. But assuming it's a Sunday afternoon or morning going home from shul, you can get home now, we're in 20 minutes time, but you get stuck on the side of the road, there's an obligation to stop and help that Jew. So it's a mitzvah, as the Chovos Halevavos says, to help him, to give him a good eitzah, to help him out. Have pity on the poor and treat them with compassion. And to tolerate their insults when he urges upon them the service of Hashem. Right? It's a mitzvah, and if you view it like that, it might become a little bit easier, that if a person is obviously nicely suggesting to someone who he feels that he has some authority, some influence over, Rabbi Yankel, I think, you should try to daven b'tzibur more often, or I think you should, treat your friends more nicely. So the person's going to insult him back. So part of the mitzvah of caring for my fellow Jew, that means I'll suffer the insults that he's going to give me because I'm trying to help him. To encourage them with hope is a mitzvah, and to cause them to fear retribution and punishment. So it depends again on one's relationship. You don't walk over to your friend in shul and start telling him, if you make a bracha like that again, you're going to get him. That's not how you treat people. It's not, unless it's a very close friend. But those people that we feel we have influence upon, and we know that if I'm going to say this to this person, he might act in a negative way, but I know it'll make an effect on him, and I know he'll think twice the next time. So then it could be in that case I have an obligation to do so, and it's a mitzvah for me to suffer the insult that will be heaped upon me. So those are examples of mitzvahs that affect other people. the Rabbeinu Bechaya, the author of this sefer, is a Rishon. The Rishon is from a certain Tkufa. It's rather the 12th century, 13th, 14th century of Rabbanim were the Rishonim. 10th and 11th century also, the Rishonim. Now, when it comes to Gemara, when it comes to commentaries on the Chumash, the Rishonim, those commentaries, we medayik them, we learn them. Every example they give, we try to figure out why do they give so many examples? Why do they give dafka these examples? Specifically these examples. It's just interesting, these past two areas of bitachon where he's listing mitzvahs that affect the person himself versus mitzvahs that affect other people. He has a long list that we get the idea, all right? We get the idea. He has a long list, and I wonder if there's a certain significance in each one. What stuck out in my mind, if I'm not mistaken, when he was going through the mitzvahs that only affect the person himself, the first one was, here we go. What's the first mitzvah? The mitzvah only affects you. What's the first mitzvah? Is it Shabbos? Is it kashrus? These are like the main mitzvahs of Avodah Zarah. There's soim, fasting. Like, of all the mitzvahs of Ben Adam Lamakim, essentially, between man and Hashem, not between man and his fellow man. Like, fasting is the first one, and then he brings tefillah, sukkah, lulav, tzitzis. Those are like like, it just struck me, the first mitzvah he mentions is it's fasting. I don't know what the significance is, but here also, it's a long list of mitzvahs. If you get there, he started stuck. Obviously, it's like one of the main mitzvahs of the Adam Chaveroi, but he doesn't bring a Shabbos Aveda. I don't know, it's just a thought. Okay. So what is the proper attitude when it comes to these mitzvahs? Says the Chovos Halevavos. Ofnei Yoshev Bitachon Bezeh, She'iyah ha'adam tsoifin bilvavoi, kol ha'maisim ha'elev ha'adoyme, lahem. Listen to this. One must keep the proper attitude. Bitachon, when it comes to these mitzvahs, this is a chiddush, is to approach the mitzvahs with the proper attitude. What is the proper attitude? Tsoifin ha'adam tsoifin bilvavo kol ha'maisim ha'elev ha'adoyme. To keep these activities and things like them concealed in his mind. He should not do these activities for publicity and recognition from other people, says Rabbi Miller. His motivation should be his bitachon in Hashem and his hope for reward from Hashem. So the motivation to do these mitzvahs is not to get covered, to be thanked by other people, to be viewed as a bar chesed by others. The motivation has to be because Hashem commanded it, and a lower level motivation is to get rewarded. Right? The Mishnah in Pirkei Avos, we should not worship Hashem in order to get a reward. That being said, we have a concept, as we'll discuss soon, if a person wants to engage in Torah study to get honor, that's no good. But we say you should do it anyway. If I start learning Torah for the wrong reasons, I'll end up learning Torah for the proper reasons. There is a certain time where we say you shouldn't do that, and we're on Tainus, and the Tosfos says there that it's, if a person's learning lakanter, to fight, he's trying to accumulate Torah knowledge to use as a weapon, a person like that will not come lishma, he shouldn't learn. But a person who's learning for covet, for honor, he should learn, and eventually, he'll end up learning lishma. Reminds me of a story, the Slonim Rebbe, in Eretz Yisrael, they asked him, there's a custom, is a practice that Bein Hazmanim, which means when the yeshivas are not in session, the month of Nisan, part of the month of Tishrei in the summer, and Av. So some places have yeshivas Bein Hazmanim, which means they give the bachrim an incentive and they pay them in Eretz Yisrael 5 shekel an hour. You learn 3 hours in the morning, you get 15 shekel times 6 times the 3 weeks. It was some pocket money, right? So some people are very against it. You're paying bachrim to learn. What kind of message are you sending to them? Torah is the Shema. Torah should be, you're learning because of the Shem Shemayim. You're teaching bachrim from a young age that you can work as a plumber, and you can work as the guy who's learning Torah, and you both get a wage. Like you're demeaning the Torah. Now, you have to understand, there are thousands of bachrim learning for these 5 shekel an hour, right? It's a big, and they're staying off the streets, they're learning, and they're taka learning Torah. So the Slonim Rebbe said, you know what? You guys are right. You're 100% right. I agree with you. Just do me a favor. Don't stop the programs. Keep the programs. But you're right. I mean, sometimes, you're right. Ideally, that shouldn't be like that. And there's a bad message. But you know what? Let's keep them in the base medrash learning. So here, the ideal we're saying over here is that a person is doing it lishma. My motivation is only to get close to Hashem. If my motivation is to get a reward from Hashem, That's also not lechatchila, but it's still a high level. But a person should not be doing these mitzvahs in order to get gratitude from others. He should choose to do them. He should make his focused plans and put in the necessary effort to carry them out. As we discussed earlier regarding the obligation to exercise free will, a person chooses to do these mitzvahs. His intention has to be only to get close to Hashem. That's why he's engaging in these activities. So as Rabbi Miller points out now, that when it comes to these mitzvahs, a person has to work on himself, and I don't often do this, to develop the right attitude. I mean, bitachon when it comes to almost everything, but here for sure, is just developing the right attitude. Why is this person giving so much tzedakah? Why is this person heading up this chesed organization? Why am I, not him, always focus on yourself. Why am I involving myself in this chesed? Is it to get recognition? Is it I want to be known as the big Baal Chesed? Or is it because, I want to do the Ratzon Hashem, the will of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Not to be motivated by acquiring a name among people and be honored by them. And not to be rewarded for them with gifts. And not to have power and authority over them. So a person has to approach these mitzvahs with, l'shem shamayim, really l'shem shamayim for himself. But Miller feels the need to point out over here what we just said a second ago, and that is that this is the ideal. The ideal is to do mitzvahs, but only for l'shem Hashem. He quotes that Gemara that says that if you start off with wanting to get covered, a person wants to give $1 million donation to the yeshiva. And he knows he's doing it because he knows he'll get a lot of covered. So what should he do? Should he spend $1 million on, trips or whatever? No, he should give it to the yeshiva and work on himself that next time we'll try not to have covered, not to desire the covered. But l'maisa, a person should still be involved in chesed, even if it's a lower level. A person shouldn't avoid it. There are some Rosh Yeshiva, some Rabbanim are particular, the makpid, when a person donates money, they definitely want to put his name on the building. They definitely want to put a plaque with his name. And we all know in fundraising that, they have all these charity things, or even if it's not charity, you can see how much everyone gave, right? Now, when you see that there are like 3 anonymouses who gave, $30,000, fine. When you see 3 names, or you see how many people gave, for us, not to get 30,000, but let's say you see how many 360s, how many 1800s. It's a bunch of anonymouses. It's not going to motivate a person as much as, oh, it's this guy in shul, and it's that guy I know, and it's this guy over there, and I can't give less than him. There could be some not lishma, kavanas going on there. But there's no question about it that when you put your name on something, everyone sees this person gave this amount and encourages others to give. At the end of the day, we want to support our moistus. So there's no question about that a person, and some Rabbanim were makpid that the people who gave money to their institutions, they definitely did put their name on the building. Because that encouraged more people to give. You're encouraging more mitzvahs. So while it's not the ideal, like the Slum Rebbe taught us, it doesn't mean you shouldn't do it. You should do it and also try to reach the ideal. Continues the Chovos Halevavos. V'achar kach yiftach al Elokim v'hashlamas ha'maaseh shekiven la'asos mehen. And then he should have trust in Hashem, that he'll have the opportunity to fulfill that which he intended to do. According to whatever Hashem wishes to happen after his making an attempt. So then again, like we said before, a person has to, so when it comes to these mitzvahs, so obviously I have to think of the idea I want to give tzedakah in this organization. Then I have to make the commitment to do it. And then I have to think to myself, Hashem, please help me with 2 things. Number 1, I should have the proper kavanah. And number 2, it should actually happen. Like we said last times, that whether it happens or not is not in my control. You should try with all your ability to conceal one's activities of chesed the best that he can. For when it's concealed, his reward will be much greater. The more a person conceals the chesed he does, the greater it is. From what it would be if he was known. Now, actually, I remember when I was sitting shiur with my father, Zichron Livracha, all these stories came out of the various chasadim he did. He was executive director of SAR Academy in Riverdale, and he was in a position where he had access to people who had money, and he had access to people who needed money, And he would often give him his own money or make a shidduch between a gvir and someone who needed the money. And my mother, you can ask, she did not know of a very high percentage of the chassadim that he did, and we only found out during the shiva that he actually did that. So that's a person who filed this Chovos Halevavos, who didn't want the reward. It was all done b'tzina. How many times do we do things and we tell our spouse? It's good that she should be machshir her husband, right? But some people are above that and they do the chesed, as we say in Yiddish, stiller hate, and they don't make a big deal out of it. And that's the Chovos Halevavos is saying is the true way of doing chesed. That being said, you can't always hide the chesed. And if you can't hide the chesed, yizkor boy hashiur asher ikdamnu. He should remember the principle stated above, that neither benefit nor harm comes from people, only with Hashem's permission. So he has to strengthen within himself that concept that even though I'm doing a chesed, like give an example of, it's a poor girl can't afford a wedding. So you go and you make the wedding from beginning to end. You're there making sure that the invitations went out and that the wedding is running smoothly. You can't hide that from people. You have to remind yourself that nothing good is going to come to me per se because people find out about this. Whatever good I deserve to get, HaKadosh Baruch Hu will give to me whether this guy finds out that I helped this person or not. So the avodah of a person who's doing a chesed in a manner where it has to be well known, some chasadim we can't hide, the mindset should be, I have to mechazik myself, strengthen the idea within myself that the knowledge of this chesed is not going to benefit me. Hashem will find a way to benefit me even if this wouldn't have gotten out. When Hashem brings a mitzvah, a circumstance where he can fill a mitzvah, you should think of it as a benefit that Hashem has given him. In other words, we don't have to do Hashem any favors. Hashem does not need our favors. So if a mitzvah comes our way, a poor person knocks on the door, and we give him some money. So you tell Hashem, I took care of you, please take care of me. That's not the approach. Every mitzvah that comes to us, we have to thank Hashem for the opportunity, that the schus of giving us the opportunity to fulfill a mitzvah. But it's not that we're doing anything for Hashem. We're doing it for us. We're happy that this person, this ani knocking on my door, if I'm able to give him, whatever I'm able to give him, is a chesed from Hashem, that he was mazman, he brought this person to my door, that I can give him the tzedakah. We once had the schus of having Rabbi Sipper, right? His son lives here, right? So Rabbi Sipper was visiting us from London, and England, somewhere in England, and he had the following gematria. So the gematria of Hatzalah, which means to save, and Ani, which means poor person, is the same. Now, whenever someone quotes a gematria, there's an absolute obligation to check and make sure it's accurate. I've been in many shiurim, not many, some shiurim, where you catch a minute later and it's not accurate. So let's go through Hatzalah. So Hey is 5, Tzaddik is 90, Lamed is 30, and Hey is 10. That's 130, right? 90 plus 10 plus 130. Ani is 70, 50, and 10. That's 60 and 70 is 130. The same gematria, Ani and Hatzalah. I think it would be Sipper's Chiddush. She wanted to say the Ani, if you give to the Ani, you avoid having to have Hatzalah come. HaKadosh Baruch Hu brings the Ani. You should see the Ani as the Hatzalah, right? Instead of having a Hatzalah ambulance come to the person's house, Hashem brings the Ani. It's the same gematria. So if he gives to the Ani, obviously if he can give to the Ani, he's saving himself from the other 130, which is gematria of Hatzalah that's going to come. That was a nice Chiddush from Rabbi Sipper. So again, we see again that bitachon is not what I do, bitachon is how I do it. So when a mitzvah comes my way, where I can help another yid, I try to do it stiller hate. I try to do it in a very quiet way. No one should find out about it, just for Hashem. When it's a chesed that people are going to find out about, I can't hide it. I'm a chazik myself that, in a sense, nothing good will come from it that otherwise wouldn't come. I have to mechazik myself. I'm not going to gain off people knowing about this chesed. And when the opportunity comes, instead of viewing it as Hashem, I'm going to help you out, I did you a favor, we have to be makir toiv every opportunity of a chesed that comes our way. We have to thank Hashem for allowing us to be the vehicle to fulfill His mitzvahs. Things to keep in mind the next time these opportunities present themselves. Wishing everyone a wonderful and a safe Shabbos. We'll see you next week.
Good Chodesh. Thank you, Rabbi.
Chodesh also. Sorry, good Chodesh.